Who feels the energy in this room right now? Yeah, you guys are electric. I love this meeting. Who loves this meeting? Yeah. You know what? I've learned so many great things over the last day and a half. It's been amazing. Like I always love coming to a meeting like this because when you come with an open mind, when you come ready to learn stuff, it's just like you can't help. But it's like you're drinking from a fire hose of learning, and you just can't help. It's like you're showering yourself in this fire hose of learning, like, give me more. Who's ready to rock the next hour and then go out and just have some fun connecting with some people? Anybody ready for that right now? If you're ready for that, let's hear it. Make some noise. Yeah. Who feels like they got a golden nugget today? Raise their hand. If you've got more than one golden nugget, 2, 3, 4, 5 golden nuggets, if you're going home with 10 golden nuggets, you're like, man, I am on fire. I got news for you. We got an hour left tonight, and we have a whole day left tomorrow. So this is just getting started. We still have Curtis JQs doing live booth role play tomorrow. Yeah. Who's excited about that? Who's excited to hear Chelsea Banks talk about selling sets? This woman is a set-selling machine. Is Chelsea in the house right now? I know her and Roger had like a date night scheduled 6 months ago for tonight, so they might already be out of here. But we'll give them. Let's give Chelsea a one clap on three. One clap. 1, 2, 3. Boom. She'll be here tomorrow. She's been here all day. I'm really excited to be talking to you guys today. How many of you feel like sometimes you get in the booth and you just end up, finding yourself going through the motions? Like, you know your scripts, you know the questions, you know what to say, you know what to do, but for some reason you're just not on your game. Anybody ever been there before? Raise your hand if you've ever been there. Okay, how many of you, you're always on your game? No matter what, you're like a game player all the way. People look up to you and they're just like, man, you are on point. Honey, lady, you are just jamming. I look up to you. I aspire to be like you. Raise your hand if you're that person on your team right now. It's okay if you are, by the way. There's plenty. Seth is. Frank is. It's true, right? So I've seen some people, like I know every time I see Curtis working, he is on his A game, like a laser. I know every time I see Jason Jeffrey working, he is on his A game, like a laser. It's amazing to watch. I've been humbled so many times in this business. I'll be the first person to tell you that when I started with Cutco, I had no business getting into business. I'd been in and out of jail multiple times. I was on probation. I had massive debt. I was in school full time. But what I did have going for me was I was used to working 60 to 80 hours a week around a full-time school schedule. And my good buddy sold knives for the summer, and he tried to recruit me the whole summer, and he was like, he kept trying and trying and trying, and I was like, dude, no, I don't want to sell knives. Okay, knife boy, it's cool, don't worry. I appreciate you had a great time with this, but that's not me. And then I was hard up for a job. I needed money, and he was like, he showed me his paycheck. It was like he had it, planned. He pulled it out of his pocket, showed me his paycheck. It was $1,200. That just happened to be my budget for the month. And I was like, what, do you get paid once a month? No. Every couple weeks? Like I do? No. Every week. You made $1,200 selling knives in a week? Come on. He's like, yeah, man. Yeah, I worked like 30 hours last week. I was like, I'll check it out. I mean, I'll just see what okay. But I'm not making any promises. It's so funny because I had such an attitude back then, I thought I was doing my friend a favor. I remember the moment that things clicked for me. I remember I was sitting in a team meeting, and I'd won a couple push weeks in my division. And I was, moving up, getting my promotions, right? I was making 30%. I remember sitting in a team meeting, my buddy was behind me, and something just hit me where I was like, man, this whole time, I actually had it set up where every time I sold $1,000 in a week, because my friend made $50, he had to take me out to dinner because I was doing him a favor, making him $50 a week. That's how cocky I was back then. Jeez. Amy almost fired me 3 times from our office because I was a little rough around the edges. Why am I telling you this stuff? Because I remember the day that it clicked, and I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'm not doing my friend a favor. My friend did me the biggest favor he could possibly do because I'm changing. I'm growing. I'm becoming a better human being. I'm representing a best-in-class product with a best-in-class service through a best-in-class sales approach. How many of you know what I'm talking about? You felt that feeling before where you had that realization that you were like, oh my gosh, wow, I am actually really lucky to be here, to be in these shoes, to be in this job, to be in this office, to be on this events team, and to be a part of such an amazing opportunity where we don't just sell knives to our customers, we actually change our customers' lives. We actually change our own lives. We actually change the lives of the people around us. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. You've had that moment in your career. I've had that moment many times now. I've been humbled over and over and over again. There was a year where I'd won all the silver cups, I'd broken all the records, I'd achieved Hall of Fame, I had my bronze homemaker. Some of you don't even know what that is, but it was one of those awards Cutco got that they don't give anymore because people were like, why are you giving this to me? So, solid bronze homemaker is what we used to get when we sold $1 million worth of knives. Yep. It just sits in my living room and people comment on it. That's all it's there for. And my house cleaners dust it. Like, that's it, right? So, but I remember, like, I'd won all that stuff, and I remember thinking I was hot stuff, right? I had stuff together, but in reality, behind the scenes, I was working my butt off hard. Now, there's nothing wrong with hard work. I believe, I heard Jason Jeffrey say it the best the other day at our year-end banquet. He said, hey, man, listen, people tell you you should work hard and sacrifice your lifestyle as a result. That's not correct. Right? It does take hard work to be successful, but that's not the only thing. And then you hear other people saying, hey, you should work smart, not hard. Just work smart. And he says that's not correct either. Because what it takes to be successful is you have to work hard and you have to work smart. When you're able to do both, that's when you get real success. That's when you experience true lifestyle, true freedom. How many of you know what I'm talking about? If you know what I'm talking about, can I hear you go, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, exactly, right? But I remember the moment where I was working my butt off. I was working hard, but I realized I wasn't working as smart as I could. I had systems in place, marketing was going well, but when I looked at my numbers, I realized I just wasn't getting the best numbers out there. I was working my butt off, I was selling more than everybody, but I had friends like Jason and Curtis who were working half as hard as me and getting the same or higher averages. Right? In fact, not even the same averages. When I started looking and I started asking questions, I started inquiring from people, I realized they were getting like twice the averages that I was, twice the average order. They were closing in half the time. So they were able to work with twice as many customers in a day as I was. I remember the first time I ever worked with Curtis. And Curtis sold $10,000 in the day. And I sold $4,000 in the day. And we were both busy. The single difference between the two of us, and we sat down, we talked about this at dinner, the single difference between the two of us was that Curtis worked with about 3 times as many customers that day. So he sold almost 3 times as much as me. And I was like, dude, what do I got to do different? And he said, do this, and do this. And I went in the next day and I did all those things, and I outsold him. I was like, yes, I beat Curtis. It was awesome, right? And then he beat me the next day by a lot. So, in the end, he beat me overall, right? So, but it was really cool. And I remember that year was the year where I realized, like, hey, you know what? I'm not as good as I think I am, and I got to take a step back and go learn from people who are getting the results that I'm already getting, because I realized I can't work any harder. I don't want to work any harder. I'm already working hard. Now I've got to find a way to work extremely smart. And the best way to do that is just get better at sales. And so I studied Jason, I studied Curtis, I studied sales trainers outside of Cutco. I started investing in big seminars, then going and studying online marketers and all sorts of different stuff. And what I realized was that when you get down to the nitty-gritty, sales is sales is sales. It doesn't matter if you're selling knives, or if you're selling toilet paper, or if you're selling paper, or if you're selling, produce to the supermarket. It doesn't matter what you're selling. Sales is just sales. There's a process to taking a customer through an experience from start to finish. From the first time you engage them and get to connect with them and realize that they're a prospect, all the way till the very end, where they either decide to buy from you or they decide not to buy from you, but decide that when they buy, they're going to buy from you in the future. And then, the Costco program came up, and they were like, hey, we want you to design our training program. We want you to figure this out. Help us design a training program where we can train everybody nationwide on the same program, and we can go out and crush it. And we need to scale pretty quick. We need to be able to do 900 Costcos in the first year. And I was like, say, what? Do we even have the people to do that? And they were like, no, we don't have any. So we got to build a recruiting program too. And I was like, okay. So we built the recruiting program, we built the training program, and that's where I came up with the Sales Mastery Formula. Had a couple conversations with John Berghoff, some of my mentors. I read a bunch of sales books. I studied a whole bunch of people that year. My averages doubled in a year. I got signed on to the Costco program, and then we built this program for Cutco to train all the Costco people, and this is what they learn. And it's evolved over the years. Some of you maybe have seen me deliver on this. Last year it was 5 strategies. This year it's 6 strategies. I'm consistently working with people, interviewing top people, finding out what everyone has in common. And what I've realized is that when you watch great salespeople, when you watch great sales trainers, there's certain things that the masters always have in common. Certain things that when you watch them closely, you'll notice they do, and they do really well. They don't necessarily do them in an order. They don't necessarily do them step by step by step. What it is, it's like a philosophy that they operate from. It's certain bases that they make sure they always cover. It's certain things that are just always there when you watch them work. And that's what I call the sales mastery formula. So I want to walk you guys through the 6 strategies to selling smarter, selling faster, and solidifying relationships with your customers. So I'm going to ask you to take out notes. I'm not going to be able to go deep dive into this because literally I could talk about each one of these strategies for a couple hours apiece. In fact, I'm in the middle right now of recording a training course. Actually, I already recorded it, but then my video guy called me last week and was like, hey man, our second session where we got the whole last part of the course recorded, yeah, something happened. The sound wasn't plugged in. So I got all the video, but I don't have all the sound. I'm like, oh, okay. Cool, man, just a challenge. He feels horrible. I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter. Cash the check. We'll work with you. We'll make this happen. We'll get it fixed. It's just going to delay things. No big deal, right? What I'm excited about is that that course is literally hours. It's like 9 hours of training where we deep dive on each strategy, boom, 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 boom. We don't have that time today, so what I'm going to do is give you an overview, and then we're going to deep dive on what I feel is the most important strategy for this group right now based on the agenda that we've already been through. You guys have learned the closing lines. You've learned the quality questions to ask. You've learned how to negotiate. You've learned how to handle objections. You've learned how to engage people. What we haven't learned yet is how to master ourselves. And so what I want to wrap up tonight with is by the end of today, you're going to understand how to actually master yourselves in addition to all the great strategies that you've already learned on how to sell, right? I'm going to walk you through a couple exercises I think are going to be really helpful for you and give you a couple tools that you can take with you and reference in the future. You've already gotten a handout, right? And if that handout's gone all the way around, we're going to fill in all those blanks today and cover some other stuff for you that's going to be really helpful as well. You guys ready to get started? All right, cool. Let's start with what the sales mastery formula is. I love this quote by W. Clement Stone. Sales are contingent upon the attitude of the salesman, not the attitude of the prospect. How many of you are guilty of getting to the end of a day? Dave's like, I'm guilty, bro. Already guilty. I don't even know what you're going to ask me, but I'm already guilty, bro. I know it, right? I love you, Dave Stewart, man. You're a rock star. So you are like my Samoan brother from another mother, man. I swear, I love it. Love vacationing with you. Anyways, okay, I'm getting off on a tangent. So I love this because how many of you are guilty for getting to the end of a day, and it was a struggle, it was a challenge, and immediately you were just like, you know what? It was just a bad crowd. I was busy all day, but it was just bad customers all day. Yeah, the customers just sucked today. Anybody guilty of this? You've had this happen? Raise your hand. Be proud. It's okay. We've all had it happen, right? So how many of you, you've never had that day happen, but you've seen other people have that day happen? You've watched other people in the booth around you where they get to the end of the day, and you know they talk to some great quality prospects all day. You know that if I talked to that person, they would have bought from me, but you can tell it was just inside their head the whole time. It was just because they weren't right in the head. Their attitude was off base that day. We've all had these bad days, but how many of you have been around the person that's had that day? Raise your hand if you've ever been around that, right? Yeah, exactly. So the first step in the sales mastery formula is all about mastering you. And the whole goal with mastering you is to get positioned to make consistent progress. See, when you master yourself, when we master ourselves, when we get really clear on what we want, and we develop a map on how we're going to get there, and we know how to manage our mindset, the way that champions manage their mindset, and we come from a service aspect, when our motive is actually to serve first, sell second, we align ourselves with a greater purpose. We align ourselves with doing what's in the best interests of our clients. And frankly, in today's world, here's what's real. What's real in today's world, when you look at all the research, people are more connected than ever before. We're now part of a global economy, not a national economy, right? Not a North American economy or a continental economy. We are part of a global economy. The reality is that 30 years ago, If you were the only person that had a product or a service in your town and people needed it, you could be the worst salesperson on the planet. You could use all the tactics. You could be pushy, pitchy. You could be obnoxious, annoying. You could be all those dirty words that we all know people are described as when it comes to salespeople. How many of you have heard those dirty words? What kind of dirty words have you heard when people say, when you say to somebody like, oh, I'm in sales, and you just see it, like their body changes, their energy changes, like the words appear on their face, they don't even have to say them. What kind of words are there? Sleazy. What else? Liar. What else? Pushy. What else? What? Slime. Love it. What else? Greedy. What else? Liar. What else? Yeah. Yeah. What else? Exactly. What else? Used car salesman, right? Yeah, that's the one that always pops up. No matter what, it always pops up. How many of you want to be known as that person in sales? No. And here's what's interesting. In today's world, when you watch a lot of sales training, when you look at a lot of the old stuff that's out there, and some of the current, much of the current stuff that's out there, what people are teaching is pushy, pitchy, sleazy tactics, misleading things. They teach you to say and do things that aren't necessarily in the customer's best interest, but help you get the sale. And here's what's interesting, is that when you talk to customers, when you actually survey your clients, your prospects, when you actually find out what people really care about with sales, things that pop up are, I just want to be taken care of. I just want to know that my best interests are the priority. I want there to be trust. I want to be understood. I want people to serve me. I want to know that I'm not just buying something from someone one time. I want to know that I'm going to be taken care of long term. These are the things that are important to customers. If you haven't read the book yet, I recommend you get a book by Daniel H. Pink. Anybody ever read Dan Pink? If you haven't, okay, great book. He's a great author. If you haven't listened to Dan Pink on some of the podcasts that he's on, if you haven't read some of his books, I'm going to highly recommend you get a book that's called To Sell is Human. And Dan Pink has done all the research out there on what the perception of salespeople are and what customers are really looking for. And what you'll find is that there's a big disconnect in the world today. And the reality is we're all salespeople. Parents have to sell the kids on doing their homework. Husbands have to sell their wives on taking out the trash. No, the other way around. Wives have to sell their husbands on taking out the trash, right? We have to sell ourselves someday on showing up in the world to be our best, to bring our best energy to our clients. Yes or yes? Yes. Absolutely, right? Sometimes we have to sell our managers on not PDIing us every day because we don't need it. Sometimes our managers have to sell us on getting back to work because they know it's what's in our best interests. So in today's world, what's interesting about sales is that because of the global economy, the world is more competitive than ever before. And if you're a sleazy, pushy, pitchy, lying, tactic-filled salesperson that has commission breath all of the time, the reality is your customers will pick up on that. And there are people who will go around the corner, go home that night. They will not buy from you because of how you made them feel, because of how you treated them, because of how you approached them. And maybe you weren't even doing it intentionally. You were just doing it because it's what you were taught. And they will go home and actually buy something online like the same thing that costs more. Or they'll buy one of your competitors online that costs more. Or they'll go to the next show and they'll buy from somebody else. Right? It's amazing. I had a customer that came by a kiosk with his son, and he called me after going to the kiosk 3 times in 1 week. 3 times in 1 week, just this past holiday. 3 times in 1 week. And it was interesting. He called me. He's like, hey, man, I'm really excited to buy this stuff from you. I know what my list is. I don't need a discount. Here's what I want. I was like, sweet. And then I upsold him using discounts, another like $1,000. It ended up being a $2,000 order the last day of the year, right? And it was actually, he went by a kiosk that was in my division. He would have talked to somebody who would have written up the same order for me, and they would have gotten paid commission on it. But he said, what was interesting, he didn't say this till the very end. He said, it was interesting. I think you should talk to your guy that was working at this mall because my son and I went by there 3 different times. 3 different times we went by there, and every time they were on their phone the whole time. Didn't even notice we were there. I'm like, well, were you standing at the store across the way kind of waving, or were you actually at the booth? He's like, no, my son was there, actually touching the knives. I actually had to say to my son, don't touch the knives. And he didn't even notice. Never looked up once. I don't know what he was doing, but he was like playing a game or on his phone or whatever. And I was like, wow. He's like, I would have loved to buy all this stuff from him. I knew exactly what I wanted. I didn't need a discount. I was just going to tell him what I wanted and get it ordered, but it didn't even seem like he wanted to talk to me. Imagine that, right? That's not mastering ourselves. That's not bringing our best. And so this is the topic we're going to dive into in a minute here, where I'm going to give you the full scope on it, but let's talk about step number 2. I love this quote by Zig Ziglar. If people like you, they'll listen to you. But if they trust you, they'll do business with you. If people like you, they'll listen to you. But if people trust you, they'll do business with you. I love this quote. I love Zig Ziglar. Do we have any Zig Ziglar fans in the house? Yeah. How many of you know that Zig Ziglar is an alumni? He used to sell Cutco. One of his very first sales jobs. Can we get a 1 clap on 3 for the late, great Zig Ziglar? 1, 2, 3. That guy has changed the world when it comes to sales. Step number 2 in the sales mastery formula is engaging. The whole goal of engaging is to establish and maintain connections throughout the sales experience. See, it's really easy to establish a connection. The difficult part is actually to maintain the connection. How many of you ever had that experience where like you're going through the demo with your customer and you notice that they're just kind of not listening? Anybody ever had that happen? Raise your hand. Customer's not listening. And you notice, right? Well, the mistake that most people make, the pitfall, the thing you want to avoid is actually continuing to go when you notice that. First, you've just got to be mindful. Right? Engaging is all about the questions that you ask, how you answer questions for people. It's all about the environment that you create for your clients. See, when things are fun and friendly, when you're asking quality questions, when you're providing quality answers to your clients, what ends up happening is they get attracted to your energy. And questions are an exchange. So one of the things I had to learn really quickly was I'd watch Curtis work, I'd watch Jason work, I'd watch other people work, I'd listen to other people, I was listening to Dan Pink, and all this stuff was coming together for me, and I realized I was like, oh, one of the things I do is if I notice a customer's tuning out, it's almost like I just get louder, and I would just go a little faster to try to get their interest, to try to get them back to me, and I realized that wasn't working. So it's like in those moments, what I realized, you've lost connection in that moment, so you've got to stop and ask a question. You've got to stop and go back to the personal connection, right? Build a little rapport or ask a question that gets them answering. Find out what they're thinking. Find out how they're feeling. Because the goal is not just to establish a connection by creating like that fun and friendly environment. You know, when you watch Curtis work, it's amazing. Like the guy can literally, his aura is so good. His environment that he's a part of, he makes it so fun and so friendly for his clients that a lady can be walking by the booth and not even acknowledge or recognize or register that we're there, and he can just go, hey, ma'am, yeah, you right there. Hey, come on over here. Come on. It's not really how he does it. I'm over-dramatizing right now, okay? But like, I've seen people where they're like, no, I'm cool. And he's like, no, come on, you got to come check this out. Are you familiar? And they just like, it's like a magnet. It's like they just do this loop, and they just come back to him. And then 10 minutes later, they're buying a signature set with steak knives. And I'm just like, how do you do this, right? It's all about the environment that he's creating. He's establishing connection, but most importantly, he's maintaining connection from start to finish, right? So the customer feels fully connected, like he's fully present from start to finish. How good are you doing at that right now? Are you just pitching? Do you get them connected? Like you're good at that, you're good at getting started, but then it just kind of turns into a pitch after that and you lose that connection, it kind of wanes by the end? Or are you keeping them connected the whole way through? Step number 3. Oh, I love this quote right here. See if I can read it from here. People largely buy based on emotions. Then they justify with logic, right? This is why sales reps who don't know how to evoke powerful emotions struggle to get even mediocre results. It's done by research done by Persist IQ. They've done a ton of research and found that, you hear all about emotions and logic, but it's very rare that people mention that you need both to really get people connected and really get people buying. And the most important thing is your ability to draw out and evoke powerful emotions from your clients. That's why step 3 is super important in the sales mastery philosophy, right? The whole philosophy is you've got to be able to connect with people, establish and maintain that connection, but also you've got to be able to solve problems for people. You've got to be able to really connect with their emotional struggles and challenges and the pain that they face. You've got to be able to uncover people's needs and fill those needs for them in a way where they go, wow, I didn't even realize I had that struggle or that challenge. Or they go, yeah, I do have that struggle and that challenge. They either tell you or you ask the questions that draw those emotions and those challenges out, and then you introduce Cutco as the solution. You help them see how it just makes sense. You help them visualize what life would be like down the road if they had this solution in their home. And then they go, it becomes their idea. They're like, so how do I buy this stuff? How much is this stuff? Like, what do I got to do to get going with this? Do you do payments? Can I buy sets? Can I buy just individual knives? Like, how do things come? When you get really good, we talked about it earlier, so I'm not going to talk a lot about it here, but when you get really good at asking the do you ever struggle, have you ever had this challenge? Have you ever had this wish or this hope? And they start saying yes to those questions, you know you're connecting on an emotional level. And when you get those connections out, and then you go, cool, let me go ahead and show you this stuff right here. And bam, you drop that solution on them based on whatever they're telling you about their cooking. Like Brandon gave you all the questions, right? The rapport building questions yesterday. Matt gave you some great rapport building questions yesterday. You ask all those questions, and then you go, cool, now let me show you this. And you give them the Cutco solution that makes the most sense based on what you're talking about now. They can't help but want it, because they're emotionally connected, and then they're going, oh, that's my solution, and it's this far away. It's like right there in front of me. I can taste it. And then you ask them imagine if questions, like imagine if this and imagine if that. Can you imagine if this? Like what would it be like if this? And then they start to actually taste it, smell it, feel it, envision themselves using it in their homes. And next thing you know, boom, they're like, okay, they start asking the buying questions. And that's when you can move right into the next section, which is closing. But before we even do that, I want to just let you guys know, I know many of you, how many of you are not getting my training emails that I send out on a weekly basis? Raise your hand. Okay, cool. How many of you are getting my training emails on a weekly basis? You've used them and they've benefited you in your business because you've listened to them. Okay, great. So those of you that are not getting them, I want to give you this information so that you can get on our training list. All right, here's the idea. It's just free training. So for me, the way that I get learning, right? It's one of the only ways that I do it in Cutco, but it's the most powerful way I've found to do it, is I get on the phone. I wrote a list yesterday of like 30 people I want to interview this year and the different topics that I want to interview them on. Like Dante Reynolds and his Hunter's package. You know, Brandon Brown and his list of quality questions. Seth Kinzer and his high kicks and how he gets so good at high kicks and like how he just like stretches it out and can kick so high without tearing the crotch in his pants. We're going to dive deep with Seth on the next interview. I'm just joking, that's not what we're going to talk about. Josh Curry and how he went from 80 grand just a couple years ago and like nothing, being like in really big trouble, basically floundering in and out of the business, having a really, like if you don't know Josh Curry's story, I can't wait to introduce it to you because this guy is amazing. He's the next big star in our business. He went to $250,000 this year, won a Rolex, and had a breakout year going from 80 to 250 in 1 year, just like that. And when you talk to this guy, how many of you have felt Josh Curry's energy at this event already? Right? And I've got a list of a ton of other people. Here's what I do. This is how I get my learning. I schedule interviews with these people so that I can learn from them. I take pages and pages of notes. And, you know, thank you to Amy for giving me a system where I could actually record those calls. She was like, hey, you're doing all these calls. Maybe you should start recording them. I'm like, that's a great idea. How do I do that? She's like, here's a system. Follow this. Okay, great. So we do that. We record those calls. I upload them to Dropbox, and then I send those out in an email with a link to my notes so you guys can listen to them and learn from the people that I'm learning from. Get the tips that I'm getting from them. So if you want those training emails, here's what you need to do. Open up your phone right now and send me an email. My email's right there. By the way, I'm giving you my email so you can email me anytime. If you have questions about the net meeting, follow up. If you need information from somebody, like I've already gotten a couple emails that say, hey, Josh, can you get us the negotiations emails that Jason mentioned in the coordinator breakout? My answer is yes, I will get those to you. And as long as Jason gives me permission, I will distribute them to you as coordinators. So you have those, right? But email me, csbjosh@hotmail. Include your name, your email, well, that's there, and not city, state, actually. Take out city, state, and do your zip code instead. Like your zip code instead, right? So your name, zip code, and then just put in the subject line conversations. So put in the subject line conversations, and then what I'll do is I'll make sure that anytime I do an interview, and I send an email out to the entire group, the entire community with that audio, with that those notes, link to the notes, that you're on that list and you get those emails too. How many of you would like to get those emails? Can I hear you go, oh yeah? Oh, yeah. All right, cool. So we're going to continue those. I'm going to continue doing these interviews, continue sending these things out. And because we want to share what we're doing to be successful with you guys. We want you to benefit from all this information too. All right. Great quote from Jeffrey Gitomer, one of the top sales trainers in the world. He's got a ton of great best-selling sales books. He's got a great website. He writes articles for multiple magazines, multiple newspapers all around the country. He's syndicated. He's crazy. He's actually, if you go to Rulin's website, if you go to rulingroup.com, if you go to giftology.com, John has actually got a personal relationship with Jeffrey Gitomer. And Jeffrey actually gave a video endorsement. Darren Hardy gave a video endorsement of John Ruhlin. And they're on his website talking about how awesome John Ruhlin is and how awesome John Ruhlin has been for their business and how much of a difference he's made. This is what Jeffrey says. If they like you and they believe you and they trust you and they have confidence in you, then they may buy from you. Ultimately, it comes down to you. It's all about you. It's all about the influence that you have. It's all about how good you are, how confident you are. So here's what's great, right? When we're masters of ourselves, when we're showing up in the world at our best, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, and when we're engaging people and establishing and maintaining connections with people throughout the entire sales experience from start to finish, when we're working on connecting, uncovering people's needs, filling those needs, talking about people's struggles, connecting with them emotionally, providing solutions for them that they see as the solution that solves their problems, that fills their needs, eventually what ends up happening, and this can be in a matter of minutes, people are interested. They'll ask you that one question. It's that buying question. And it's the only thing you need, that one buying question. How much is it? How do I get it? How does it come? Those types of questions, right? That's your signal. Great, it's time to move into closing. And the whole goal with closing is simply this, right? Jason said it best at our Year in Banquet a couple weeks ago, closing's overrated. And I absolutely believe in that. Because here's what's great. When you do things right in the front end, closing becomes super easy. The customer basically helps you close. You just have to know what offers to show them based on what you've already talked to them about. You just have to help them see how that offer is what makes the most sense for them based on their situation so that they feel understood. And you just have to ask great questions. You just have to price position things so that the price makes sense. You just have to ask great questions so that to them right now makes sense. You have to create some urgency. You just gotta have a conversation with them about why your prices right now, why right now versus waiting till later are what makes sense. The whole goal with it is just to reach it just makes sense and yes decisions. So when you watch me close at the booth, all I'm doing is when I'm going through closing, I'm just trying to help them position the price as something that makes sense, the timing as something that makes sense, the package or the offer or the program that I'm showing them as something that just makes sense for them. And then I'm asking questions that get them saying yes. I'm just yesing them to death. Ray's watched me do it. It's like, so, what do you think? Would you agree that you'd use this? Yes, I would. Okay, great, cool. So, and if we did that, is that something you do on payments? You like that, right? Yeah, I do like that. Okay, awesome. Great, and would you want that? Would you like? It seems like, you have dark cabinets at home. Would you like that with the dark cherry block? Yeah, I would. Okay, great. And I know you mentioned that you really like the white handles. Is that something you want to do in the white then? Yeah, I would. Oh, high five. Here's an order form. Let's get that going for you. Yes, yes, yes. When they tell themselves yes, when they're making decisions and they're saying yes, 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 all it is like you don't even have to ask for the order because they're just saying yes so much that they want it. It's that simple. You guys follow? Right? But it starts with having their best interest in mind first. It starts with bringing your best, not just going through the motions with your clients, but actually doing your best sales presentation, your best sales approach with every single client that you work with, every single prospect that you work with. Right? It's about engaging and establishing and maintaining that connection. It's about solving the problems for the clients. And then, of course, step number 5 is upserving, which I'm not going to talk on upserving, but here's the goal of upserving. Upserving is very simple. It's just to maximize every client's received value from each sales experience. And if you need tips on upserving, there's a video on Vector Connect you can watch. It's an hour long where I dive deep on my upserving training. And it's some of my best training, I'll tell you that. And in my course, or in my coaching that I do with people, it's even better than it has been in the past. So we're dialed in with upserving at such a level right now, it's pretty amazing. But the whole goal with upserving, a lot of people are like, but Josh, I don't want to come across as pushy or pitchy. You're absolutely right. But here's the idea. Once somebody buys from you, all they're saying to you is that's where they're comfortable making a commitment. Like Brandon said yesterday on stage, right? I've been saying that for years. That's where they're comfortable saying yes. That's where they're comfortable making a decision. That doesn't mean that's all the money that they have. And there's only one person who knows how much money they have and whether or not they have any more to spend. And there's only one person who knows the deals that they can take advantage of, that they have not yet taken advantage of. And the reality is, who's the person that knows about the money? Them. Who's the person that knows about the deals? You. And so it's your obligation to go through the upserving process. Worst case scenario, they say, no, I'm good, but thanks, and you've got stuff to add to their wish list, like we talked about yesterday. Best case scenario, they go, ooh, that's a good deal. Yeah, I do have money to spend. And you make that connection. It's your obligation to make that connection. And do a great job of it, and do it every single time. I've seen the difference it makes. How many of you are upserving? Like, you're doing a good job upserving. You know it's making a difference in your business. Raise your hand. Or let me just hear you go, oh yeah, because you know. Your bank account is lined with upserving dollars right now. If that's you, can I hear you go, money? Money. Right, exactly. Are you doing it all of the time? Every single customer, every single day, multiple times? Are you letting them off the hook after one upserve because you're afraid to show them more? Or are you barreling forward, serving them at an even higher level, letting them know about the next level of value that you can offer to them? Are you doing it over and over and over again until they say, that's it, I'm done, stop showing me more? All right, I'll take it. My favorite line is when a customer goes, all right, I'll take it, Josh, but don't show me anything else. And I'm like, all right, cool. Just so you know, the more you get, the more you save. So can I just show you one more thing? Because I think you'll really like it. No, absolutely not. Okay, cool. All right, I'll leave you alone. That's great. Thank you. Here's your credit card. Right? They love it. They love it, but it's fun. The whole upserving process and training is set up to make it fun for the customer, not make it pushy and pitchy, right? So you got to study your stuff, get good at it. And then the sixth step is the famous let go. The famous let go, some more, what I believe is some of my best training. We talked about it yesterday. It's all about how you leave the customer at the end of the experience. Whether they buy from you or not, you want to leave them in a way where they feel amazing, where they're walking away on cloud nine, where they are so happy, where they're not thinking about what they bought and how much they spend and whether or not they made a great choice. They feel great about the choice that they made. They know exactly what to do moving forward. They know exactly how to approach you if they need service. They know exactly how to get in touch with you. They know exactly how to work with you in the future. And they feel acknowledged, recognized, appreciated at the highest level. And as a result, they're walking away feeling like, wow, not only did I spend $100, which I wasn't expecting to do 5-10 minutes ago, not only did I spend $3,000, which certainly was not what I woke up and said I was going to do this morning when I got out of bed. I'm going to spend $3,000 on kitchen products today. Let's go find out who can do that for me. That's not what they're thinking, is it? No. But they did it. And they walk away. I've seen Frank Delgado do this, and he is a master at this. They walk away, and they are like, I'm so jazzed. I feel loved. I feel honored. That was best in class, baby. And then when Frank picks up that phone later on and calls them, they're excited to hear from Frank. They're not surprised. That's earning loyalty from their clients at every sales experience. It's not something that just happens because some clients are cool and some clients are loyal and some clients aren't. It's something that happens because you intentionally focus on it. Whether you know it or not, you've done a really great job with this in the past, and you've probably done a really crappy job with this in the past. And when you become intentional about the way you leave your customers after every sale experience, you'll notice that your loyalty will increase. I can look back through my business. I can look back through certain time periods and years. I can see the times where I can see the buckets, the pockets of customers that are not as loyal as others, and I can trace those right back to the times where I was going through the motions, where I wasn't doing the famous let go, where I wasn't being intentional about how I left every sales experience for the client. I can see it. It's like night and day. That's why I believe in this so much. So that's your 6 steps sales mastery formula right there. I could talk about this stuff for days. I feel like this is my life's work right here, guys. Training salespeople how to impact their customers and impact their businesses for a lifetime. How to earn lifelong loyalty from your clients. How to speed up your sales process by stop being so salesy and pitchy and pushy and start being very personal and asking great questions and learning how to strategically and intentionally guide conversations from start to finish. Maintain a connection. Establish and maintain that connection. Solve problems. Close deals in a logical way where people can't help but say yes. Upserve and maximize people's value that they're getting from you and leaving them on cloud nine when they walk away from you so that they can't help but want to do business with you in the future, and they may not even know why, because you are so good at helping this happen that they don't even realize what happened to them. That's true salesmanship. That's true saleswomanship. How many of you have felt the feeling of this before? Like you were level 10 with your sales experience with your client. You've had that moment. If you've had that moment, can I hear you say, hell yeah? Hell yeah. Yeah, exactly. What if you could have more of those moments over and over and over again? Well, what kind of a difference would that make for your business? Let's talk about how to master you. Oh, I love this quote right here. This is Randy Fishkin, founder of SEO Moz, I think is what it is. The best way to sell something, don't sell anything. Earn the awareness, respect, and trust of those who might buy from you. The best way to sell something, don't sell anything at all. Earn the awareness, trust, and respect of those who could buy from you. Something to remember. So let's talk about what does it take to master you. I don't know why that's in red. That's not how I put it up there, but hey, cool. The goal with mastering you is about creating consistent progress in your business. Putting yourself in the position where you can consistently make progress. Right? And the way that you do that is by mastering your map, by mastering your mindset, and by mastering your market. Map, mindset, market. We're not on the handout yet, but we'll get there in just a minute. So your map. What is your map? Your map is what builds clarity. When we have absolute clarity on where we're going, how we're going to get there, why we're going there, it becomes really easy to get to work. I've always found that where I slow my progress the most is when I don't have clarity at the level that I need to have clarity in order to make consistent forward progress all of the time. So what is it? Here's how you build your map. It's very simple. This is just, you could call it a business plan. You could call it whatever you want. It's what, why, how. 3 questions I'm always asking. With this room right here, with the events program, what do you want what's your goal this year for events? How much of your business will come from the events program this year? Make a decision. Get really clear about what you want. What kind of schedule do you want to live? Do you want to do 1 event a month, 2 events a month, 3 events a month? Do you want to work every weekend the entire year and just like go nose on the grind and just have your breakout year this year and figure out and learn stuff from that? What do you want it to be for you? What are your averages? How does it break down? Make those decisions for yourself. And decide, make a decision. Share that with your coordinator if you haven't done it already, so that they can help empower you to achieve your goals. You know, one of the things I would always do with my key staff as a coordinator, all my leaders, I would sit down with them and I'd say, what do you want this year? What do you want this year? What are your goals? Why are those important to you? Tell me why. You should answer that question for yourself. Why do you want to achieve what you want to achieve this year? If you want to work 30 events, if you want to double your averages, if you want to sell $100,000 at the booth, if you want to sell $300,000 at the booth, if you want to add 1,000 customers to your database, whatever your goal is, why is that important to you? Why is that a must-achieve thing for you? Why? Get clear on that. Share that with your coordinators. I would always ask my people, why is this important to you? I want to know why. And then how? How are you going to get there? How are you going to make that happen? For some of you, the how may not be very clear. You may need a booth. You may need to spend $1,000 or $2,000 to create a booth display so that you can go out and research events and help build your team. Your how may be that you need to, sit down with your coordinator and help them plan out the events. Some of you have really great programs in place, really great systems. Your how may be I just need to show up to meetings and I just need to work hard outside the booth so that I'm always at the top of the picking level so that I can get the shifts that I want at all the shows that I want. But what's your how? How does it break down? How do your averages break down? How do you actually make what you want to happen happen? Your why is your motivation. Your what is what you're going after, what you need to have a laser focus on. And your how is where you're at right now is point A. Your what is point Z. And your how is the B's through the Y's between here and there. It's like the whole rest of the alphabet. So I'm not going to do all the ABCs for you because I haven't done them in a long time. I don't know if I'll get it right. But what, why, how? What do you want to achieve? Why are you going after it? Keep those whys in front of you. How are you going to get there? Second step, mastering your mindset. Your mindset is what determines your actions. Jason turned me on to a program. We went through this program together, and it was called Your Wish is Your Command. And it's some like frou-frou stuff out there. I mean, they talk about Illuminati, and there's some crazy stuff in it. And I don't know if I'd recommend it for anybody and everybody, but here's what I did. I did take some golden nuggets from it because I was listening to like, what do I really want to get from this? How do I really gain something from this, right? And there was some really good, powerful stuff in there. And here's what I learned. Most people think that success is 99% mechanics and 1% mindset. That's how most people move through the world right now. That's why most entrepreneurs fail. That's why there's so much going on in the world right now that's not going well. But see, the people in this room, the people who are most successful in the world, they get that success is actually 99% mindset and 1% mechanics. The mechanics are easy to learn. You guys all know what to do. You do. You've got tons of training. You've field trained. You've worked events. You know what works. You know what doesn't work. But the biggest thing that gets in our way for all of us is this right here, right? What we tell ourselves, what we convince ourselves of. So our mindset is the thing that we have to work on the most. And when you give your mindset the most attention, it changes everything. It makes everything else easier. So I want to share with you what I call the championship mindset. And that's like how to master your mindset. And that's what this handout is right here. So there's 3 things that you have to pay attention to master your mindset. Number 1 is your attitude. Your attitude is what you focus on, right? Our attitude is what we focus on. And so when it comes to that, so the first thing that I've got up there is actually purpose of service, right? The purpose of service. I am a firm believer that if you want to master your mindset should be a service-focused mindset first and foremost. I've already talked about that a bunch in previous talks and a little bit today, so I'm not going to hammer on that anymore. But let's talk about the ABCs of the championship mindset. Number 1 is attitude, right? Attitude is determined by what we focus on. The second thing is beliefs. Beliefs are determined by what we say to ourselves. And you know who is the person that talks to you the most? Yourself, right? Anybody got that little voice in their head? Do any of you have that little voice in your head? Raise your hand. It's okay, by the way, you're not crazy. We all have it, right? We talk with ourselves more than anybody else talks with us. We say more to ourselves than anybody else says to us. That's why there's such a big movement towards like mindfulness right now, meditation, because the world is realizing like, holy crap, the voices inside my head won't shut up. I have to work my butt off to like, shut them up. And trust me, guys, how many of you meditate in this room? It's not easy, is it? No. Amy just set up a meditation room in our house, and I'm like, I hope that works better than what I'm doing right now, because I'm having a hard time with this meditation thing. I can't stop this thing from going. And then, of course, our choices. That's the C. The third thing is our choices. Our choices are determined by what we align with. Our choices are determined by what we align with. Here's what I've found, guys. I want to share with you a matrix. And it's what I call how you get in your championship mindset and how you stay out of the defeated mindset. How many of you have ever been in the rut before? Where like, you're just in the rut and you just can't seem to get out. You know what I'm talking about. Raise your hand. If you've been in the rut, be like, I've been in the rut, Josh. We all have been, right? One of the biggest questions I get from my coaching clients, one of the biggest things we have to consistently shift, one of the biggest questions we get from 150 Costco demonstrators, one of the biggest questions I hear from you guys when you call me, when you email me, right? When we get down to brass tacks and I start digging in with people, what it really is, what the question's really coming down to is, hey man, my head's not straight and I can't seem to fix it. I'm having a hard time getting out of the rut. How do I get out of the rut? It's the number 1 question I get asked every year, all year long, for multiple years in a row. That's why I'm bringing this to you guys today, because I believe that this is like the cherry that takes everything you've learned so far, and if you can master this and implement this year, this is one of the things that will shift things and move the needle the most for you. So here's what I've learned. Set up this matrix, and this is how it works for me. I check in on my attitude. What am I focused on? And then I check in on my choices. How is my attitude affecting my choices? And then I ask myself, what am I telling myself? What's the belief going on inside my head right now that's causing me to have that focus, either the defeated focus or the defeated choices? And what do I got to do to fix it? So what I want to share with you today is I want to share with you how you align. The power, the things I focus on, the statements I tell myself and the choices that I make that allow me to align across the board and create congruence across the board so that I can get back to work, so that I can get out of the rut. And I found it comes down to basically, these are the four most common things. Number one, champions focus on an attitude of progress versus perfection. Progress versus perfection. How many of you suffer from the perfection complex? Raise your hand. Yeah? Some of you are not raising your hand right now because you're trying to be perfect. This is it. This is like my Achilles heel, right? I'm always telling myself, hey man, it's not about being perfect before you get started. It's about making progress. Just make some progress. That's it. If you focus on progress, not perfection, you take the pressure to be perfect off, and it's so cool because all you have to do is get better. That's it. If I just do a little bit better today than I did yesterday, if I just do a little bit better this time than last time, I'm winning. I'm winning. Champions, they have an attitude. They focus on appreciation versus entitlement. They appreciate what they have instead of feeling entitled to everything all of the time. If you appreciate what you have all the time through gratitude versus feeling like you're owed something, versus feeling like that customer shouldn't have treated you that way, versus letting your pride and your ego get in the way, instead, you focus on appreciation, what you're grateful for, what's going right instead of what's going wrong. That focus makes all the difference. Champions focus on empowerment versus being doubtful. They focus on empowerment versus being doubtful. You know, a lot of times I catch myself asking questions that are tied to self-doubt or fear of failure or uncertainty. And the biggest thing that I've learned to do with those is I just ask myself, like, how is this thought, how is this question serving me right now? If the answer is it's not, I do what Jessie Wright taught at RDC like 4 or 5 years ago, where she says I just cancel and replace. And what I replace it with is an empowering question, an empowering thought, something that helps me believe more in the future I want to create versus focus more on the past and whatever circumstances have caused me to doubt myself, fear, like be afraid of failure, to, whatever, like those types of things. And then champions focus on possibility versus limitation. The best coordinators in the business right now, you can tell, you can feel the energy in the room because they're focused on possibility. They're focused on how they're going to get to 3 million, not why they can't get to 3 million. They're focused on all the things that are going great in their organization right now, not focusing on the reasons that they're being held back from that. They're not focusing on all the things that are not working right now. I think about Nicole Cray, and I think about how, the beginning of our conversation, right, when we first started working together, and there were many conversations that we had, about your relationship with your DVM, about the people on your team who'd been around for a while. There was just a lot of stuff going on, right? And it wasn't all healthy. There was a lot of great things going on, but there was a lot of struggle and challenge as well. And she didn't know, she'd never been a coordinator before. Right? She's like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, Josh. I'm just trying to run some events here, and I'm dealing with all this crowd. I feel like I'm always putting out fires, and I can't even go sell because of it. I was like, I get it. I understand. And one of the biggest breakthroughs we had was when I asked her. I said, Nicole, how much of your meeting with your DVM, what percentage of time? And I asked a couple people in this room today this question when they came and asked me for some advice on coordinating. But I asked, how much of your time is being spent on the things that are not going well, the limitations that you have, the challenges when you're talking with your DVM about the future of your program? And that was, and I said, how much time are you spending on celebrating and talking about all the things that are going great? And it was so funny because she was like, oh, I know I've gotten a good one when they go, you can hear it. Oh, that's a good question. I know. John Vroman always says, my 2 favorite words, great question, right? And it sucks. When someone's coaching you, you got to answer the question. A great coach won't let you off the hook. They make you answer it, right? And she was like, It's like she already knew the answer. She already knew where we were going. She's like, I'm over-dramatizing right now, but she was like, Right? That's exactly what happened. She turned off Skype, and she was like, I hate these questions. She came back on, she goes, okay. It's about 80% crappy and 20% good. I'm like, what do you think you need to change? Right? Let's focus on possibility. Let's focus on the future we want to create. Let's focus on all the great things that we're doing to move towards that possibility, and let's stop focusing on the limitations. Right? Imagine if all you did was checked in on your attitude anytime you're in the rut, and you asked yourself, am I focusing on progress? Am I appreciating what I have? Am I empowering myself through my thoughts? And am I focusing on possibility? How much of a difference would that make for you? Let's talk about choices. Choices. Champion choices versus defeated choices. Champions focus on taking action versus waiting. Champions focus on taking action versus waiting. They choose to take action instead of choosing to wait for it to be perfect. Champions focus on celebration versus it not being good enough. Some of you heard me share some stories at your year-end banquets, so I won't do these again, but here's what I'll tell you. My celebration bar is so low. It is so low. Now, my standards bar is up here. I want to perform at the highest level. I want to hold myself to the highest standards. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm always working on getting better and better at that. But when it comes to celebration, it's way the heck down here. Because so many of us, all we're doing is putting the pressure on ourselves. We're always, how many of you ever said, like, yeah, I sold a trimmer, but I could have sold a blank. Yeah, I sold an ultimate, but I really think they were better qualified, and if I would have just upserved better, I could have sold a kitchen. Yeah, you know, I did a service call, and it was great, made a great connection, I got 10 leads, but I had a no sale. That but right there is like, it's the evil in our lives. It's the evil in our mindset. And here's the reality, guys. We owe it to ourselves to celebrate our successes, every little one. Imagine if you celebrated multiple things a day, every day, for 365 days a year, how much better you would feel, how much more you would take action towards your goals, how much faster you would move towards the things that you want, right? Let's stop putting the pressure on ourselves to celebrate only the great things, only the best things, the biggest orders. Let's celebrate every order. I celebrate every freaking single small cutting board I sell. I celebrate it with the client. I celebrate it with myself. It's another order in the bank, right? Stephen Decker, where are you at, buddy? Is Decker in the room? Steve-O here? There he is. Yeah, buddy. How much did you celebrate in the month of December, hitting your Rolex in the last week, selling how many orders? 76 orders the last week of the year? I'm sorry, 80 orders the last week of the year, right? How much celebration was going on in your life in that moment? Yeah, was it every order? Was it every customer? Did you celebrate with the customer and after you got off the phone with the customer? Absolutely, right? And how good did it feel? How much of an influence? Yeah, he's like, it felt this great right here, Josh. It's right there. Anybody want to know what time it is? Anybody want to know what time it is? Because I got a watch that'll tell you what time it is. That's what Steven's saying right now. This guy worked his butt off. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wasn't easy. Wasn't easy. Celebrate your wins, every one of them. Every one of them. If you come cross-train at the State Fair of Texas, oh my gosh, people are like, whew, Hank was there, right? Like, it's like, whew. The energy of celebration is amazing. I was blown away by it this year. I had to take steps back and be like, holy crap. Like, I've been level 10 before, but this team is they're making me feel like I'm level 7, that my level 10 is level 7. And I had to raise my game this year as a result. It's powerful. But it was all rooted in celebration. Champions choose energy versus burnout. They choose to take care of themselves. They choose to rest. They choose to feed themselves well. They choose to hydrate. They choose to do the things that they know they need to do to take care of this one thing right here, the one thing we have to live our lives, the only thing that gets us through, our vehicle. This is our power plant. This is our energy generator. We owe it to ourselves to take care of it. We owe it to ourselves to live a lifestyle that brings energy to us. We owe it to ourselves to do the things every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year that bring us joy. For Amy and I, people are like, dude, why do you skip big events to come to speak at a conference? And I say, because this brings me joy. I'm willing to make the sacrifice to bring more joy into my life. Right? People say, like, why do you go on the rep trip and skip big events that you could be working? Because travel brings me joy. And so any chance we have the opportunity to travel, we're going to take it. It just makes sense. Joy brings you energy. Healthy food, rest, exercise, it all brings you energy. Don't sacrifice your energy and risk burnout simply because you're chasing the dollar, right? You owe it to yourselves to take care of yourselves. We all do. Champions choose faith versus fear. They choose faith versus fear. They choose to believe. So I want to give you my beliefs, right? Because here's the deal. When you're focused on progress and you're focused on taking action, you won't be waiting and you won't be worried about perfection. And here's what I tell myself. If I find myself stuck in the rut, I remind myself of a belief. My job is just to do my best, forget the rest. Do your best, forget the rest. Thank you, Tony Horton and P90X. Right? Do your best, forget the rest. If you tell yourself on a regular basis, if what you say to yourself is, I just need to do my best, forget the rest, it'll be easy to focus on progress, it'll be easy to take action, and you won't find yourself focusing on perfection. You won't find yourself choosing to wait. See how they line up? Championship mindset. That is alignment. So, if I want to be in high appreciation and high celebration, what am I grateful for right now? If I find myself stuck in negativity, if I find myself thinking it's not good enough, if I find myself feeling entitled, I just ask myself, hey, what are you grateful for right now? Becky Heelis, one of the top Costco reps in the nation right now. This girl has sold like $1 million in the last couple of years. It's pretty amazing to watch. She never sold anything before. Actually, Jamie King's sister, just so you know. So Jamie King's sister never sold anything before, came in, boom, crushed it. It was amazing. So she's the one who introduced me to this. She's like, Josh, anytime I'm stuck in the rut and I'm negative, it was like an interview we were doing for the Costco program, I just ask myself, what am I grateful for? And I make a list of 5 things right away. Studies actually show, I did some research on this, studies actually show that when you're in gratitude, you can't be negative. Your brain can't do it. It's impossible. If you're thinking about what you're thankful for, you cannot be negative. Why would you want to be negative? If you're focused on appreciation and you're choosing to celebrate, when you ask yourself the question, what am I grateful for? If you're focused on entitlement and not good enough, it'll bring you right back to appreciation and celebration, bring you right back to alignment. So now you're focused on appreciation and you can choose to celebrate what you're grateful for. Bring the joy back, bring the energy back. You guys see? Bam, mastering that mindset, getting out of the rut. All right. When I find I'm feeling doubtful and I'm feeling burnt out, I just remind myself, I believe in my ability to figure it out. I believe in my ability to figure this out. I believe in my ability to figure this out. No matter what's going on, no matter how crazy my schedule is, no matter how overwhelmed I am right now, I believe in my ability to figure it out. And that brings me back to a state of empowerment because I can focus on empowerment and I can choose to focus on bringing energy into my life and not worrying about anything else. And then the last thing is, if I find I'm focused on fear and limitation, I remind myself that anything is possible. Anything is possible. History has proven it. People believed that the 4-minute mile was impossible. Humanly, all the scientists believed. They had proven through science it was not humanly possible. Our legs were not long enough. Our lungs were not deep enough. Our heart was not big enough. We couldn't pump fast enough. And then Roger Bannister ran the 4-minute mile. Broke the 4-minute mile for the first time, and then within a couple months, multiple people had done it after him. Did you know that when they built trains, people wouldn't ride on them? Because studies had shown, I don't know where these studies came from, but people believed that if you got on a train, you would go so fast your heart would stop. You kidding me? Good thing some guy created the locomotive and still said, I believe anything is possible. I believe in my ability to figure this out. We can do this. And went for it. And look, now we were able to travel across the country for the first time. Thomas Edison, 10,000 failures, over 10,000 failures with the light bulb. But when people asked, what did it feel like to fail 10,000 times creating the light bulb? He said, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just figured out 10,000 ways it wouldn't work. Each one got me one step closer to finding the way that it did. Thank the universe that he kept going, right? Anything is possible. If people can do that kind of stuff, guys, I mean, throughout human history, we've been proving it over and over and over again. Anything is possible. You could sell 200 grand. You could sell 400 grand. You could sell 500 grand. Someone in this room will sell $1 million in Cutco at the booth. It will happen. Who knows when, but I believe it's possible. Somebody will do it. And you know what? It could be Curtis, it could be Brandon, it could be Jason, it could be me. Who knows? It's going to be somebody. The question is, who will you be the first person? What do you want for yourself? You've got to believe in possibility in order for it to even be a thing for you. So, I'm out of time. So I'd like to wrap up with this. We owe it to ourselves to believe bigger than we've ever believed before, to work harder than we've ever worked before, to work smarter than we've ever worked before, to do the work it takes to keep our mind out of the rut, to get ourselves out of the rut, to plan our goals out, to take intentional, well-designed action towards the things that we want to accomplish. And here's what I can tell you. When you look at Curtis, when you look at Jason, when you look at all the greats in the business, ultimately, they're not superheroes. We're just human beings who've done the work. We've just done more work than anybody else. We've put in the hours. We've worked on ourselves more than anybody else. We've mastered ourselves. We focus on engaging clients at a high level. We focus on solving problems for clients at a high level. We focus on closing clients at a high level. We focus on upserving our clients at a high level. We focus on the famous let go at the highest level so that we're creating those best-in-class experiences for our customers. If you want to be a great salesperson, you've got to commit to mastering your sales philosophy, your sales process, and it starts with mastering yourself. Thank you for your time. I wish you all the best of luck this year. We look forward to connecting tomorrow. It's going to be pretty awesome.